Oh man, I am so burned out. I literally cannot handle another client calling me at 10 p.m. I just can't handle it anymore. Hey, did you know that agent burnout is a very real thing? We don't have normal hours. Clients want access to us 24/7. Throughout the busy season, it gets even worse. What's the answer? What's the solution? There are 4 aspects to it that everyone here can do to increase your resilience and avoid burnout. Let's dig in. But before we do, make sure you go and hit the subscribe button and like this video. Let's get started.
Welcome everybody to the Chris and Garry Show. My name's Chris Scott. I am joined by Garry Kreth, extraordinaire. And we think we know a thing or two about real estate because collectively, Garry and I have over 50 years of experience buying, selling, all that good stuff when it comes to real estate. We release a new episode every single Thursday. So if you want to get updates, you want to get notifications on when we do, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. And if you're really enjoying the conversation and want to learn more, go check out our website at thepaperlessagent.com or find us on Instagram at thepaperlessagent. Garry, let's talk a little bit about agent burnout because to build on top of the fact that we have to work long hours in a given day because our customers usually, they want to talk to us or interact with us in the evenings because they have jobs during the day. And oh, by the way, we have jobs during the day as well, which we're constantly previewing inventory, producing information, doing our marketing. But we also have to work on the weekends, right? Because our clients, they're free. They don't have to work on Saturday, Sunday. So we're going to be showing them homes. We might be doing open houses. And so I know for a fact that you've experienced agent burnout on a number of occasions throughout your career. Can you tell us about one of the more difficult episodes that you experienced?
Yeah, I think it really stems from the fact that we get into this business because we're service providers. We are servants. We want to give of our knowledge and our expertise to our clients. And the thing is that the more we give, the more our clients want. And we don't set boundaries and we don't have any resilience. And so what we do is we just continue to give and give and give until we hit the wall. And so I'll never forget this one time. This was actually in 2003. And I was working in the middle of the busy season in July in Austin. And I was working 7 days a week. I would literally get to the office at 7 in the morning. I would leave no earlier than 10 p.m. 7 days a week. And I'll never forget, my broker came to me late one night as she was closing up. She goes, "Garry, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I've got clients coming in town tomorrow morning. I got to get this other listing in the MLS. I got this other stuff. I got to prepare for the open house this weekend. I have to respond to some clients and we've got closings this week." I said, I don't have time to sleep. She said this to me. She said, "If you do not slow down, you are going to burn out." And I looked at her and I'm like, come on.
Burnout?
Got this.
What's that? That's not a thing. No, that's not real.
Come on, man. I was in my late 20s. I was young. I was fit. I got this. And so I ignored her. And she was a mentor of mine at the time. And I kept working. I kept pushing. And I hit what is called the wall. And this is very well known in a marathoner. Chris, you're a marathoner. You've run marathons. Your wife has run, oh my gosh, the ultra long marathon. I don't know what those
100-mile races.
But the thing is that as a marathoner, at a certain point during your race, you hit the wall. Mm-hmm. And the people who quit are the ones who could not take it. They don't have.
They don't finish. They finish.
They do not finish. They stop. The people who push through the wall are the ones who have that resilience and the toughness. Well, in 2003, I didn't have that. And I crashed and I burned. And my broker actually started getting complaints from my clients. Wow. I wasn't responding to calls. I was not showing up for appointments. I was toast. And what I actually had to do is I had to take 6 weeks off. I had to have my broker take my clients and assign those to other people because I was done. I literally crashed my real estate career it ended up taking me 9 months after that to recover from crashing because I was not prepared to push through the wall. I didn't have the toughness. I didn't have the resilience. And because of that, my client suffered and I suffered. And that is the reality of what happens with agent burnout.
Now, I'm sure most people, if you're in real estate and you've been around long enough, you know exactly what Gary's talking about. And
Yep.
maybe you didn't take you 9 months to recover. Maybe it took you 2 months, 3 months, whatever. I think the biggest problem is that you just stop caring. When you get to that burnout stage, you just can't care. You
Well, you
stop
can't.
caring.
You are in what is called survival mode.
Hmm.
And when you're in survival mode, you have blinders on. And it's like running a race. When you hit that wall, everything outside of your periphery is black. You see nothing other than what is right ahead of you, because that's where you have to go to survive.
Hmm.
And it was the same in real estate. I had to survive one day the next.
Yeah, the problem with burnout is that there's a complete depletion of body, mind, spirit that you can't will yourself to want to do it. It's just
No.
you are at where you are at, and it can take quite some time to recover. The solution to burnout, and the solution is actually to prevent it from in the first place. Now,
Right. Yes.
like that, the only solution is to prevent it. However, there are things that we can do. You mentioned resilience and toughness, mental resilience, mental toughness. That is the thing that we need to develop and to build on. That will allow us to work for longer stretches, but it also builds into our schedule recovery from those daily sprints or those weekly sprints.
Yes.
I think
Oh,
the
and
top.
I will tell you, Chris, here's the number one reason that we as real estate agents and any high performing anybody does not take time to recover is we feel guilty about taking time to recover. It's like, I don't need that massage. I don't need to take that day off. I feel guilty about it because my clients need me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens when you hit that wall and you crash and burn? You're not there for your clients.
Right. And you might lose, really great customers, potential lifetime customers as a result. When it comes to mental resilience, mental toughness in real estate, the thing is, the things you would do to build up mental toughness or mental resilience in real estate, the same things that anybody would do in any aspect of life. There's actually, I believe, 4 different elements or 4 different aspects of our life that we need to address. We'll get into that in just a second. I wanted to set the context a little bit. When we talk about mental toughness or when we talk about mental resilience, I think resilience is the key word there. So I
Mhm.
was just curious. I wondered, what is the actual definition of resilience? So I looked up online, went to Merriam-Webster, and here's what they had to say. They had two different definition points for it. They said the capability, so resilience is the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation caused by especially by compressive stress. So imagine a basketball, right? And it gets punched or something, kicked, and it gets dented in. If it's resilient, it'll pop right back out. If there's not that much air in that ball, it'll stay depleted like that, right? And so, but here's the second definition for it is an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. And so when we look at that, when you think about that, Gary, there was probably a lot of things going on in your life that at that time when you experienced that burnout, that one, you were probably working hard to build your career, but you might have also been working hard to escape different aspects of things going on, right? And just, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to put the blinders on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And that's where the burnout comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were, and to be honest, there were so many things that I ignored
Mm.
that my body and my spirit and my mind were telling me I needed to pay attention to. And I think we can talk about that as we get through these 4 different aspects, because as we ignore these, it doesn't make things better. It actually makes things a lot worse.
Yeah, so cultivating mental resilience, there's 4 areas of our lives that we have to address or attend to. I'll just list them off, Gary, and then I think what we could do is talk about what each one is to us and what are the things that we're doing, and invite people in the comments to share some of the things that they're doing to address these aspects of their lives. But
Okay.
what we need to do to develop mental resilience or mental toughness is actually we have to focus on our body. That's our physical body. We have to focus on our mind, right? And so this is a lot about what are we consuming, right? What's the consumption of our mind? Our spirit, which is actually something, I'm not talking from a religious perspective, although that might be included with it, but our spirits, how do we, develop our spirit, cultivate our spirit? And then the last thing is the social dimension to our life, our friends, our family, and so on and so forth. So let's dig into each one of these four and let's
Okay.
talk about what they are to us, and what are some of the things that we do personally to develop that mental resilience and mental toughness by focusing on these areas. So the first one's body, right? Like that seems to be an easy one, right?
Oh no, that to me is really, really hard. So for me, when I was in that go, go, go mode, um, what happens is the very first thing that I started to ignore was exercise.
Ah,
Because I was like, you know what? I'll do it. I'll do it tomorrow. I got
mm.
clients to take care of. And tomorrow became next week. And next week became next month. And so I didn't make time for exercise
I bet you
because,
if you're not making time for exercise, you're probably not making time to eat healthy. And you're probably
well,
grabbing a
that's
lot
the
of
other
fast
thing.
food, right?
I mean, I was always in a rush. So when you're in a rush, you don't have time to make healthy meals. You don't have time. And by the way, most restaurants are not making you healthy meals.
No,
So eating
no.
out, even if it's an exclusive restaurant, they're using stuff in their food that really shouldn't go in
Lots
your
of
body.
butter
So
and salt. Lot of
yeah,
butter and salt to make it
so
taste
I was
good.
ignoring the body with eating, with exercise, and then here's another thing, man. When I was exercising a lot, I was also stretching, and I had a lot of flexibility. When I stopped exercising, I just became this blob. And here's what happened: my IT bands locked up.
Ooh.
And when your IT bands lock up, you don't sleep. And when you don't sleep, you don't feel good in the morning, and you're not eating well, and you're not exercising, you're not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, just you see how this happens.
Yeah.
So
It's like
there are things
they're
that we
all.
can do.
What's interesting is you say that it's all connected, right? So if you're not sleeping, that's going to affect your mind, right, throughout the next day because you're going to be tired. You're not going to be thinking well. But from that body standpoint, I think of like so exercise. It's so easy to not do it. Eating well, so easy to get off track. Flexibility that actually has so much to do with quality of life. Can you stand up, sit down? Can you do activities that you could do 10, 20 years ago? Well, if you're flexible, you can still get on those ice skates. You can still do those things with the kids. You can still do a lot of stuff. But if we start to ignore the body, and it gets harder, right? Like the older we get, the harder it gets. The more you have to exercise, the more clean you have to eat, the less flexibility you're going to have naturally. So it's like
Yeah.
if you want to attend to your body, it takes a lot of work. I know for me personally, I exercise almost every day for like 90 minutes a day. It's not always all 90 minutes at once. Might be 45 in the morning, 45 in the afternoon. One of those things just might be a walk, walk for about a mile. But like exercising, when I exercise, it actually helps me eat better. It gives me the desire to want to eat a little bit better, to eat a little bit cleaner, to not grab McDonald's when the kids are getting McDonald's. I won't eat that French fry or two. I'll just go ahead and say, I'm going to eat that later. And then when I'm exercising, it also drives me to be a little bit more flexible, stretching, because you're getting tight from that. I imagine you have a very similar schedule as you have learned over the years of like, hey, I need to do these things. What do you do, Gary, from like a routine perspective? Like, how do you get yourself to do these hard things focused on our body, but to stay in a routine or to stay focused on
For me, number one is accountability. Like it's
them?
absolutely critical that I have accountability. And for me, my accountability of exercise, eating, and flexibility is my wife
Mm.
because she's very healthy. She loves doing that as well. And so the more we can do that together, or the more she kicks my butt out of bed and says, "Hey, go get on the bike. You got to do this before you go to your next appointment." That for me is really, really helpful. And quite often also a personal trainer. If I know I'm paying a personal trainer, guess what? I'm showing up to that appointment. you know,
Yeah. Oh, you
but
spending money, you better be there, right?
yeah, but what I would also say is I'm gonna delay my answers of what I do until we get to the bottom, and
Mm.
here's why. I actually enjoy and benefit more from using a single activity to tie in all four of these aspects. And I'll explain that
Oh,
in a minute because
interesting.
that is what's called, there's this a Chinese game called Aji. That's what's called a full move, is
Mm.
that if you can take one activity and wrap all four of the body, mind, spirit, and
Mhm.
social into one activity, oh my goodness, that's power.
I do that definitely for focusing on body, as I'll choose an event that I want to participate in, right? So I used to run marathons and I used to be a runner, right? I mean, I still run, but I used to choose events. I'm going to sign up for this marathon and I'm going to go through a training cycle, and that training cycle is going to make me fit for that event. More recently, I've gotten into karate, right? My kids are into karate, so I've gotten into karate. So I knew like the easiest way for me to really like bring that all together was for me to sign up to participate in a tournament where I can do a point sparring. You're like, all right, I've never done that before. That is obviously going to be very demanding for me. I'm a little bit older, right? To go out there and do boxing and kicking, all that kind of stuff. It's forcing me to eat clean. It's forcing me to work out all the time. And it's forcing me to have flexibility because I've got this event that I'm working and preparing myself for.
Yeah, but the thing is that I think when we do those things, we forget that it actually is attached to your mind, spirit, and social as well.
Well,
that's a full move.
So mind, what are we talking about with mind, right? Like,
so in mind, we're talking about what are we doing to actively learn and expand our mind, expand our knowledge all the time. Being organized, like this is, for me, having nice, clean organization clears my mind of clutter. It is so helpful. And then limiting consumption. I mean, this thing right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's keeping the junk outside of my head.
No, I think that when it comes to the mind, if you're not learning, I think there's an old phrase by I think it was the Remax co-founder Dave Lineker. I could be misquoting it, but it's something like if you're learning, you're earning, right? The concept of you want to earn more money, then you have to constantly learn and improve your skills. But that has so much to do with just the health of the mind. I've noticed this for myself. For a season, I've always been a learner, but for a season, I stopped learning. And you and I were having a conversation. And I said, I think I'm getting forgetful of stuff. I'd be talking and I would forget what I was talking about when I was doing a presentation. And I realized my mind was getting a little loose because I wasn't learning anything. And I was so used to placing that demand on my mind. So to your point, I guess I could probably even pull this together a step further. If I wanted to connect body and mind, I've got that tournament. I should probably be thinking about and learning about what are the strategies that I need to know? What's the knowledge that I need to have so that I can be learning in that capacity?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's all tied together. I mean, the more you can tie these things together and understand how they're so intertwined, I think the more we will put importance on them instead of saying, okay, for body, I have to do this. For my mind, I have to do this. For my spirit, I need to do this. And for social, I got to do this. And it's like all of a sudden it's overwhelmed. It's like, no. They can all be wrapped up into one thing.
I do think, when it comes to limiting consumption, I do think there can be addictive behaviors that we have to break.
Yes.
And that can be, a lot of us are addicted to the dopamine hits from social media when we're scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And that's a cycle that you actually have to work to break. And that might be something.
Now there are tools and apps that can help you do that. You can have an app on your phone that says, hey, only allow me access to social media accounts during these times during the day. And if you go to open it, it's like, sorry, you're not available. You're not allowed to do that right now. And so we can have apps hold us accountable on that. And then also, don't sleep with your phone in the bedroom. Put it somewhere else.
Buy an alarm clock. That's the excuse people always say is that my daughter will say the same thing. Well, I need the alarm clock. So I bought her a $2 alarm clock. Use this instead.
There you go. So, there's so much we can do with limiting consumption. And, if you have downtime, don't pick up the phone. Pick up a book. Here's a great one right here. I got it right here. The Pathless Path. I mean, fantastic. Instead of picking up your phone, pick up a book.
All right, so let's talk a little about spirit, because this could be one that's a little edgy for a lot of people. But spirit has a lot of different angles to approach it, right? I mean, it could be anything from meditation to prayer to reflection, journaling, which is one of my personal favorites.
Huge.
Spending time in nature, right? Like just spending time in nature, doing nothing, staring at a leaf can actually be very meditative in the process.
It is. Yep.
Probably the easiest one to overlook. I know for me personally, I had a spiritual breakdown. It's probably around 2013-ish time frame. So right around the time you and I started working, right beforehand, actually.
So don't blame me for that one.
No, I remember, I was same thing. I remember that I was going through a difficult season where I was working 70, 80 hours a week for about 3.5 years.
Oh,
And
oh my gosh. Talk about body, mind, and spirit breakdown.
oh,
Not even so, I mean, even social.
yeah,
Everything.
my family, like I was putting myself through the grinder. I took a step back and I decided I got to get out of the situation. The funny thing is, the breakdown happened after I put myself out of that situation. The breakdown happened after. The spiritual breakdown happened after. The physical, the mind, the social, it was all crumbling around me over the 3.5 year period that I was driving myself 78 hours a week.
Yeah, you were on the adrenaline rush of
Mhm.
that. And then when you finally got out, your adrenals crashed and you
and
crashed.
and all of a sudden I had a spiritual breakdown, and I mean, like, I had lost my will to find work, to do anything. And the funny thing is, I didn't care. I was just like, I just can't care. I can't care about anything right now. But what I realized is I'd gotten away from things that were important to me, like prayer and journaling. I used to keep a journal. I started keeping a journal in 2003, right? So it's been something I had been doing for a long period of time. And I
Mhm.
remember I got to this point, I was real late at night, and I was just, I said a little prayer, right? I just said a little prayer. I said, I'm stuck in this. Feels like a bit of a spiritual attack, but I just worn my spirit into the ground. And the funny thing is, slowly after that, so I started getting into meditating a little bit more, praying a little bit more, starting to journal again, started focusing on the other aspects of my body and my mind as well. I started riding bike. I started getting back into doing some running, which I had gotten away from, and working out, started learning again, and slowly, but all of a sudden it started happening really quickly. So over a few weeks, which probably within just a couple of months, I got back into a space and place where I was excited again. That happens to be when you and I connected. That was when we started working together. And I think a lot of it is because I'd gotten to a place, where I was broken, but my spirit was repaired in that process. So then I was open to the opportunity. We attracted each other, and bang, 10 years later, we're still working together, having a good time.
That's right. And here we are, which by the way is so critical to not only just take care of your own spirit, but also tie that into the sociability. Because,
Mm.
Chris, I speculate that when you had that spirituality breakdown, you were probably also in a sociability breakdown as well. You probably, I'm speculating, were not on the best terms with your family.
Mm.
You probably had alienated a lot of friends, and you probably were not connected to your community.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I was probably in the worst spot with my wife and kids than I'd ever been, right? Because I wasn't around. I just wasn't there physically or mentally. Friends, I had no friends, and I think that's true of a lot of people, particularly men in their middle age, right? A lot of people don't have friends, and I didn't have any. I had work friends, and that was it. But I had no other type of friend, and I just had no community that I was part of. Well, like, that changed, right? I had to slowly, that one probably took the longest for me to change. The family one got repaired pretty quickly, but building friendships, that took a long time.
Yeah.
Getting plugged into a community, that took a long time. I have it now. I have community through church. I have community through our dojo because I do karate now. I have all these places of community. I have so many friends now, which I didn't have during that time, because you know what? Had I had them at that time, they probably would have prevented me from driving myself into the ground in the first place.
I would imagine so, but what's also really interesting there, Chris, is that you were talking about your dojo, you're talking about your community, you're talking about your church, your family, and everything like that. And what's interesting is I hear not just sociability. I
Mm.
don't just hear spirit. I don't just hear mind. I don't just hear body. I hear all of it together,
Mm.
right? So let's just take a simple example. I was running a marathon in 2009 in Duluth, Minnesota. And one of my good friends, his name's Abbott, he said, you know what? I'll meet you at the halfway mark and I'll run half of the marathon with you. And I'm like, that's freaking awesome. So we start running and he's like smiling and I'm dying. But he's smiling and I'm like, what are you smiling at? He goes, do you understand how many domains of concern we're taking care of right now? And what I'm talking about is these four.
Mm.
I'm like, what are you talking about? We're running. He goes, yeah, that's just the first one. That's the body. Yes, we're exercising. By the way, we had to eat right to be able to get our bodies the fuel in order to do this. And we had to be flexible in order to be able to run this far without locking up. Yeah, that's body. He said, but what about mind? He said, we're actually sitting here talking. We're learning from each other. We're sharing stories. We're talking about business opportunities. We're doing all of these things
While you're running, to get your mind off the running.
while we're running. And then he goes, spirituality. We're out here in nature running
26.2 miles.
26.2 miles together. Like, we're reflecting on life. We're in nature. Like, this is our spirit. This is spirituality. And he said, and sociability. He said, you're my best friend. We're out here in this community of other runners. We're all after the same goal. He goes, you are so limited in your thinking that this is just about the exercise. No, this is about your body, your mind, your spirit, and your sociability. And what I would challenge, Chris, is when you go to your tournament this weekend, that is about your body, your mind, your spirit, and your sociability. And the thing is I think that we believe that when I go to the gym, I'm only taking care of one. When I go and eat healthy with my friends and family members, I'm only taking care of one. No, we're actually taking care of multiple of these domains at the same time. And the more we can get into that mindset of this and make sure that we're focused on that and reflect on it and maybe journal about it, I think the more we'll be in gratitude of what we're doing for ourselves. And then all of a sudden what happens is we avoid burnout.
Well, if you guys want to avert burnout, focus on these 4 aspects of your life to develop that mental toughness, to develop that mental resilience. And if you found any of this information useful, helpful, please take a moment to comment, share, tell us about your story, and always subscribe to our channel. Take care. We'll see you in the next episode.